All right, now let's take the conversation still in Nigeria, but away from mental health. Concerned Nigerians have taken to public spaces to air their views with outright displeasure over the excessive borrowings of President Muhammadu Buhari's administration. Recently, the Debt Profile or Debt Management Office has come forward to explain that the public debt of Nigeria would only hit the projected 77 trillion naira if the ways and means advances from the Central Bank of Nigeria are included. During the public presentation and breakdown of the 2023 Appropriation Act and the plans of the federal government to finance the budget deficit, Patience Oniha, the Director General DMO, said that the figure would only reach that level when the ways and means advances from the CBN were securitized.
Oniha explained the projected debt using the actual public debt stock of 44 trillion naira as a basis. However, she further mentioned that the total debt stock included external and domestic debts of the federal government, 36 states of the federal capital, 36 states of the country and the federal capital territory. What does, of course, securitize mean to the average Nigerian? These are the big questions. And of course, if the 44 trillion naira is the actual debt stock, and add in the new 22.72 or basically 23 trillion naira borrowed ways and means from the CBN, it will increase the debt further, while the lawmakers divided about approving it. Now, joining us to shed more light on what you should know about the 77 trillion naira debt to be inherited by the next government in Nigeria is financial expert Gbolahan Olojede. Good morning, Mr. Olojede. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, good morning. Nice to be on the program.
Good to see you. Now, first of all, let's break down the terms security or securitized, rather, for the benefit of our viewers. And what do you think we need to know concerning this? What exactly does the layman need to know about ways and means and securitizing?
Okay, I think we should start from the ways and means. From time to time, the government's revenue may not come in when it is expected to come in. So there is a gap between when an obligation has fallen due, or some obligations are falling due, and when government expect the money to meet those obligations to come in. So I have to pay contractors in January, but the money I'm expecting will only come in February. Therefore, ways and means come into that space to bridge the gap. So I said, CBN, kindly accommodate me, give me an accommodation for a short term. And when my money comes back, I will pay you the money. I will pay you even with interest. These things are done with interest. So these are meant to be a short-term accommodation, expected to be repaid within the year. The law has also capped how much you can take, or how you can use that a window. So you cannot use more than 5% of the previous period's revenue for that particular week. What has happened over the years is that for Nigeria, number one, we bust that limit that the law has set. We went over and above that amount that is expected to be the limit. Number two is that it is meant to be paid back within a year. It is a short-term accommodation. But the way we have used it, it has become a long-term. So we have borrowed from that window and we have not paid back over a long period. So it has become a debt, technically a debt. So the question is, should we bring this debt properly onto the books, or we continue to deceive ourselves that it is still a temporary accommodation, even if some of these temporary accommodations have been there for years now? So it's neither here nor there. But if you ask me, I think it is high time we confront it and bring it and recognize this as part of the public debt of Nigeria. So how we do that, the due diligence that has to be done and all of that must be done, because trust this country. If we're not careful, some other items that do not qualify as ways and means could be smuggled into the entire thing and everything is securitized. So what is securitization? Securitization is aimed to release liquidity. We're saying now that the government is owing CBN. CBN can say, I want my money back. So it will package this loan that the government is owing and it will sell it to investors. So investors will give CBN back the money and they will own a debt instrument. That debt instrument that the investors are owing will be repaid over the years by the federal government, both the principal and the interest. That is essentially what securitization is meant to achieve.
Wow, thank you very much for breaking these terms down. So now, what's the way forward for us? We've talked about Nigeria's debt profile. Unfortunately, they talk about how the incoming administration met it at 12 trillion, and it's increased to unfortunately 77 trillion naira. I mean, does this mean for sure that we have a debt profile of 77 trillion naira, regardless of the DG statement of whether the means and ways are added or not? What is the way forward for us from here?
Technically, we have a 77 trillion naira debt. Technically. So how it is described, how it is cut and diced is a different story entirely. So for the new administration that will be coming in, it will be coming in into that 77 trillion. However, these debts are of different kinds, and the risks that they portend are also different. We have the commercial loans, we have the concessionary loans, we also have the foreign loans and the domestic loans. So, for example, the entire bucket of 23 trillion, which is ways and means, is between federal government and CBN. So the way you look at that kind of a loan between federal government and CBN is totally different from the way you look at, say, a commercial loan between Nigeria and the World Bank or IFC or bilateral loans. So those are different kind of risk profile, and the way they are treated or the way they will be approached are totally different. My take on this subject matter is to be a bit pragmatic about it. And by being pragmatic, I'm saying, look, this 77 trillion naira is already here. It is on the table. It is a debt that has been incurred. It is also important to mention the fact that, look, it is not just federal government that is involved in ways and means. A chunk of the amount that was borrowed under the ways and means were used to fund the state and probably even the local government. In those years, when revenue was so poor and the fact allocation was not enough to do anything. So government borrowed money from the CBN, shared it out to the people, and they all got it. So we must be pragmatic about this and let the new administration that will be coming in start to work now. Let that administration know that, look, I will be coming into a 77 trillion naira debt. It is a matter of fact. So that we don't spend the next 4 years saying, I did not do anything because they gave me a debt of 77 trillion. You already know that you are coming into it. Call your team together.
All right, Mr. Olojede. We might be having connection with issues there, but of course, there's other perspectives here. Of course, the exchange rate, the inflation, or CBN having to print money, and give it to the federal government. There's just so much, connected to the story that, and of course, completely going against the CBN Act repeatedly. It felt like financial crimes are committed over and over and over and over and over by the Nigerian government.